Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. I appreciate you being here today. In today's video, we are going to be discussing how to build a solo champion. Now, there are a lot of reasons to want to build a solo champion, but as a free-to-play player, I'm always looking for ways to stretch my resources, to get more value for my energy and gems, and also, if I can build a solo champion that can defeat a dungeon all on its own, that means I only need one champion as that dungeon's solution, rather than potentially having to level up 4 or 5 champions to take that dungeon down. So there are a lot of reasons to want solo champions, and in fact, you may want multiple solo champions for different fights. But the reason I'm talking about this today is because we just had an announcement about September's Fusion champion. It's actually going to be a fragment champion, and that is Strategos Islan. I think Strategos Islan is going to be an amazing solo champion. So just very quickly, we'll look back at Strategos Islan so that I can show you exactly why I think he's going to be so good. And then we'll talk about another solo champion. I'm going to use Venomage as my model for solo champions today, but the way we build Venomage is going to be similar to how we build other solo champions. So we're going to discuss all of the ins and outs of that. And then this will also sort of double as a Venomage champion spotlight. You can see just how good she is as a solo champion. So first, let's take a look at Strategos Islan here. As you can see, he is a legendary high elf champion, magic affinity, defense based. He's going to be a great tank, and he has a really cool kit. I did cover him in yesterday's video, so I don't want to cover him again too much, but just very quickly, let's talk about what's going to make him a great solo champion, and we can take a look. So the biggest part of being a solo champion is that you need to survive all on your own. Now, the most common way to have a champion do this is to build them in regeneration gear and immortal gear. A regeneration set will heal you for 10% of your HP, and then an immortal set will heal you for 3% of your HP and give you 15% more HP as well, making the heals of both sets larger. So that's the most common combination of sets that you're likely to see on a soloer. There are other soloers who can do it differently, but that's the most typical. Now, in the case of Strategos Islan, he actually comes with his own regeneration set built in. This Protect the Troops passive down here at the bottom of the screen, you can see whenever this champion is attacked, heals themselves by 1% for each 500 defense this champion has. So if you can get him to 4,000 or 5,000 defense, you're talking about an 8 to 10% heal there. You maybe even push that to 6k, you've got a 12% heal there, and that is every single time this champion is attacked. So in wave content, soloers can often struggle because they are taking 5 hits per turn. 5 enemies are attacking them, and then they get 1 turn and they heal up. And generally, the way you overcome this is by going faster, going twice as fast as the waves, and that way you get 2 heals per 5 attacks. But in this case, the attacks are actually going to be healing Strategos Islan. So I don't think he's going to struggle with waves at all. I actually think he's going to be one of the best wave soloers in the game. It's not going to be fast. It's going to be probably pretty slow, but I don't think he's going to struggle with wave content. When Strategos Islan gets to a boss, he's only going to be attacked once per boss turn. So the healing will actually come down. He'll be reduced healing compared to a regeneration set, but against waves, it'll be better than a regeneration set. It'll also depend on if the boss has minions, because then the minions could heal Strategos Islan. So we could potentially take him out of a regeneration set, maybe leave him in the immortal set, and put a toxic set on him. And that's going to be one way we could potentially build Islan for solo content. But the big takeaway here is that you need some kind of sustain built into the kit or built into the gear that we put on the champion in order to keep them alive long enough to do the job. Okay, now let's take a look at Venomage, which is the champion, the solo champion we're going to be using today. She is an epic in the Lizardman faction, and you can see that if we check her stats right away, her stats aren't phenomenal. We usually like a little bit better stats in terms of a solo champion, but they're good enough. 17k HP, 1156 defense, speed of 96, some resistance and accuracy. So she has what she needs. It's not going to be super easy to hit the thresholds that we need on her. So that is one of the things that can be a little bit difficult for a free-to-play player, especially early on. I think Strategos Islan might be a lot easier to build into a solo champion, But this is the champion that is probably the most accessible in terms of her being just an epic, not a void epic. And she can do a very good job in places like the Dragon's Lair and the Ice Golem's Peak. So let's take a look at her kit and you'll see exactly what she does. Her A1 is a 2-hitter. The Destroy Max HP doesn't really play in these fights. And also she has an opportunity to activate poisons. Now that's fine, but neither one of these extra abilities is really important because there aren't any other poisoners coming with her. So typically this activation is only good if there are a lot of poisons out there, and she puts out some poisons, but not a ton. So really the A1 is just a little bit of extra damage. It hits okay. The A2 is nice because this has a 100% chance of a decreased defense, which means the boss is going to take more damage. Also has a 100% chance of placing a decreased attack if the boss is under a poison debuff. So that decreased attack is going to increase our survivability, which is very helpful because, like we said, she doesn't have a ton of great defensive stats. So anything we can do to improve her survivability, we want to do. The A3 is the big ability. This is big for 2 reasons. First of all, it's an AoE. Actually, 3 reasons, I guess. First of all, it's an AoE. This is going to help with wave clear. It also has a 100% chance of heal reduction for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, which is very nice. And then you have a 100% chance of placing 2 5% poison debuffs for 2 turns. So every target in the wave is going to get the poison debuffs. This is also how we get poisons onto the bosses, and that's going to be our primary source of damage. So there are 3 really good reasons why this this ability is very strong, but there's a 4th reason as well, which is Venamage's passive, Pain Writhe. So enemies under heal reduction debuffs inflict 15% less damage. So all of the wave minions or, champions that you're fighting are going to do less damage when they're under heal reduction, as well as the boss. The boss will also do less damage when it's under heal reduction. Again, another way to improve Venamage's survivability. So we have the decrease attack. We have the heal reduction that adds a passive mitigation. So both of those are going to increase her survivability. Finally, we have an aura that it increases ally accuracy in battles by 45 flat points, not percentage. I always want to say percentage, by 45 points. So this is nice if you can't hit the accuracy thresholds you need, which are about 250 for stage 20 of Dragon. Then this could help you get over the top. It may allow you to save a little bit of your accuracy, like substats, and then go more in on defense or resistance. If you want to use her in Ice Golem as well, you're going to need to pump her resistance so she can resist the heal reduction debuff that comes out from the minions. So being able to save on some accuracy allows you to maybe push those points over into resistance. If you don't need any of those extra stats, you could also consider not running her as the lead, and one of your food champions that has a speed aura or a defense aura could potentially go in the lead spot. Okay, now let's take a look at my Venomage. Now, I've been moving towards a solo build on this Venomage for a while. Prior to being able to get there, I was able to use her on a duo squad with Sill of the Drakes. So Venomage and Sill of the Drakes were able to farm the Dragon Lair for me, both at stage 20, and I think at stage 25, they could also duo it. So if you can't get a solo champion all the way there, but you have a good duo partner for that champion, that can still provide a lot of value, especially if you're free to play. Remember, you can still put 3 food champions on that squad and get XP as extra value. But now I think I've crossed the threshold, at least for Dragon. I'm not quite there for Ice Golem. So I'm going to show you the build, the masteries, the skills, the stats, everything that you need to see in order to understand exactly what you need for Venomage to be your solo champion. So if you're looking at her solo stats, you'll notice I'm just over 60k HP, almost 61k HP. This is a bare minimum. I would prefer to push this up to about 65 or 70k HP. That would be very helpful, but I think you can get by with 60k HP if you have all the other stats. The attack stat doesn't really matter here, but we do care about defense. I would say you're going to need a minimum of about 3,000 to 3,500 defense, but again, that's depending on how much HP you have. So with the low HP I have, I think I need to be over 3.5k. So I have 3.6k here, which is probably just going to be enough to keep her alive. Speed is also incredibly useful, not only because it speeds up how many damaging abilities you get out there, but because the more turns you take, the more that regen set and the more that immortal set will proc and heal you. So you want to be going pretty fast. I would say a bare minimum of speed is probably somewhere around 220 or 225. Again, depending on what your HP threshold is, I would be much more comfortable here around 250, but 238 should be enough for what I'm trying to do today. The crit rate and crit damage numbers don't matter at all. I don't try to put any stats in there. You have some naturally, and that's just the way it is. But the resistance here is a little bit low. For Ice Golem, I'd like to have this resistance up around 300 or even a little bit higher than that. The accuracy should be plenty for the Dragon Dungeon at 269. Plus, remember, I have that aura, which is going to give me an additional 45 accuracy. Very quickly, I'll show you that I do have some Dragon's Lair area bonuses. The 4 speed is probably the most helpful. A little bit of resistance and accuracy. The resistance isn't enough, and the accuracy doesn't matter. Also, ignore defense is nice. That'll speed up the fight a tiny bit. But the primary benefit here is the 4 additional speed, pushing me over the 240 mark, which is nice. Again, not a huge bonus, but if you need to try to reach a minimum threshold with your solo champion, consider getting into live arena and getting some area bonuses for the places where you want to solo. Okay, so how did we reach those stats? Well, first of all, you'll see I do have 6-star pieces of regeneration gear. It's all very good regeneration gear. We've got speed of 45 on the boots. I ascended all of the pieces. I didn't get a lot of good stats here. This defense of 3% is probably the best ascension that I got, but you can look at the chest piece has defense percentage. The gauntlets have HP percentage. These are the 2 most important pieces, and I would like to have these at 6 stars as opposed to everything else at 6 stars. But unfortunately, I just don't have the substats on any 6-star gear in these sets that I need for the chest piece or the gauntlets. So I would typically go with 1 HP percentage and 1 defense percentage. Those are going to give you the stats that you need. Again, you'd be better off with 6 stars, especially in HP. So whichever one is the HP piece, that's the one you want the 6 stars on. You're going to be able to get enough defense with just a 5-star, in this case, defensive percentage chest, but it could be a defensive percentage gauntlet as well. As far as my accessories are concerned, I've got a very good ring here. It's HP main stat with defense, HP percentage, and defense percentage. The attack is throwaway. The amulet is also HP. Has some accuracy. That's really important. This is one of those places where you can get accuracy, so you want to have accuracy on your amulet. Also, resistance is nice. The crit damage here is a throwaway roll as well. Finally, the banner. I'm still trying to push resistance, but you could go with defense here or HP here if you were having trouble reaching those thresholds. And again, if you're just going up against Dragon, resistance isn't that important. I'm trying to use her in 2 dungeons, and so I'm pushing my resistance. Obviously, here I've got very good substats on this particular banner for a solo champion. Double roll into speed, which is very nice, and then HP percentage, defense, and flat HP. For masteries, you have several options, although you want to make sure you're picking your particular masteries very purposefully, right? So in this particular case, I've gone down the offense tree and the defense tree. Let me get myself out of the way here. So the reason I chose the offense tree is to speed up the fights, and I've gone for War Master. Now, I could go for a more survivable build with defense and support, and I could go down the healing sort of side of the support. I could also get value out of the accuracy side of the support tree. So support tree could be very valuable for her, but I chose to try to get War Master. In addition, I also have this skill Life Drinker that heals me a little bit. So if I get low, I'm going to get some extra heals. The defense tree is almost always required. I mean, you could go offense and support, but defense is very valuable for several reasons, one of which is this Resurgent. Has a 50% chance to remove 1 random debuff from this champion when they lose 25% of their max HP or more from a single enemy skill. So this can remove a stun, it can remove heal reduction, it can remove poisons, it can remove a lot of the things that are likely to kill you. You also have delayed death, which is really strong against the bosses. Reduces the damage this champion receives from a specific enemy by 0.75% with each hit taken from that enemy. Damage reduction stacks up to 6% for each enemy. So every time you get hit by the same enemy, they do less and less damage. So this is especially good in longer fights against bosses. So you're going to want this mastery. Finally, I've got Retribution here. It has a 50% chance to counterattack when this champion loses 25% of their max HP or more from a single enemy skill. In terms of Venomage, this isn't a hugely powerful mastery. It does get some extra attacks out there, but for anybody who heals based on their A1 or maybe has a passive that helps somehow on their A1, maybe puts a shield out or puts a continuous heal or has a decrease attack or something that would increase survivability, this counterattack on the Retribution can be very valuable. Okay, so finally we can talk about blessings. Now I took the blessing Iron Will. Obviously that gives 300 defense, flat defense right away, which makes Venomage a little bit more survivable. So that's a nice bonus. But also what this does is decreases the damage this champion receives from enemy skills activated by other skills, or when enemies inflict damage when it is not their turn. When you push Ice Golem past the health threshold that triggers the Ice Golem like big attack, that is not during the Ice Golem's turn. So this would reduce the damage that Venomage receives from that attack by 10%, thereby maybe keeping her alive a bit longer, giving her more turns to heal up with her regeneration and immortal gear. That's why I've chosen Iron Will. Again, if you're not going to run her in Ice Golem, if you're only going to run her in Dragon, I would recommend not taking Iron Will, but instead taking Phantom Touch. Phantom Touch is going to increase the amount of damage that she does to the boss, thereby speeding up those runs. Dragon boss is a little bit easier to survive than the Ice Golem because you don't have to worry about a heal reduction, and you also don't have to worry about the freeze. The stun from the dragon is usually survivable because you still will proc your regeneration even if you don't take your turn. So your regeneration set will be healing you even when you're stunned, and that's fine. But again, if you are going against the dragon only, I would say Phantom Touch, or if you just have great stats and you don't need to worry about survivability, then you could go with Phantom Touch in order to speed up the Ice Golem as well. There is one last thing you want to consider about your solo champion, and that is affinity. Affinity really matters. So in Dragon's Lair, we know that stage 1 is neutral affinity because Venomage is magic affinity, and so is the dragon on stage 20. So she's going to be able to solo stage 20. If I wanted her to solo, say, stage 24, she's strong affinity, so she might be able to do that as well. But stage 25 is going to be very difficult for Venomage to do because she is weak affinity, which means she's going to take a lot more damage. She's going to take more critical hits from the wave. She's going to take more critical hits from the boss. She's going to do less damage. She's going to weak hit more often, so she won't get her debuffs out there that help her survive, like the decrease attack, or do damage like the poisons. So she's probably going to struggle in stage 25, but you can potentially run her in both stages 20 and stage 24. Obviously, you could do stage 22 or 3, but avoid stage 21 as well. And that's true for every soloer. You don't want to be running your soloer into a weak affinity. So if you're taking on a particular boss on a particular stage, check out that affinity first before you start building your solo champion. As you can see, I have my Venomage in the lead here, which is going to increase her accuracy. And then I have some food champions here. Again, if I had a food champion with a better aura, I could put that champion in the lead. One thing I didn't mention before, but I do want to mention now, is there are additional masteries that can benefit from when your allies die. So they can give you an increased speed and increased damage based on having dead allies. So those are in the offense tree, and that's another reason why I picked those. I'll show you those now. Okay, so there are several masteries in the offense tree which can benefit you as you progress through the content. Some of it's going to be from allies dying, some of it's going to be from killing enemies. So the first one is actually Whirlwind of Death here. Increases speed by 6 for each enemy killed by this champion. So Venomage could get 18 additional speed by killing the waves, and that would be very valuable. I haven't chosen that here because I decided to go with the healing instead, but this is one viable mastery for a solo champion. The next one is Wrath of the Slain, which I have chosen, which increases the damage inflicted by 5% for each dead ally. Stacks up to 10%. So when the food champions die, Venomage will do 10% more damage. The last one here is Kill Streak, which increases the damage inflicted by 6% in the arena and 3% in all other locations for each enemy killed by this champion in battle. So Venomage will kill at least 4 wave champions. Obviously, she's going to kill all of the wave champions. So she's going to get an additional 12% damage from Kill Streak. So between Kill Streak and Wrath of the Slain, she's going to be doing 22% extra damage. Again, I could also get an additional 18 speed, but I've chosen Life Drinker here for that extra lifesteal. So remember to pick your masteries according to which solo champion you're choosing, but strongly consider these 3 masteries. Okay, so back to stage 20 of the Dragon's Dungeon, and here we're just going to fire this up, and we're going to see how this goes. Now, I think Venomage actually does a fairly good job of clearing this pretty quickly. You will notice potentially she will get very low. I don't think this is a 100% clear rate with the stats that she has, but I haven't failed one yet. My guess would be it's somewhere between 90 and 95%. But as you can see, every time she takes a turn, she gets a nice chunky heal from her regeneration and immortal sets. And so obviously, the faster that she goes, the more turns she takes, the more healing she gets. As soon as she kills one enemy, she's usually in the clear in terms of not being, able to be killed. She's going to survive now, basically. And as she kills, each of the other ones, you'll see they don't take her very low anymore. So the danger is really a full wave and getting that first champion dead. This second wave is actually the more dangerous of the two. So let's see how she does. Her resistance is high enough to resist some of the debuffs that are coming in, which is good. That heal reduction really limits Apothecary's ability to keep the wave alive. But you'll notice she is getting fairly low. She needs to pick a target and kill one target or she's going to be in trouble. Those poisons will do damage, but not very quickly. Looks like she's going to get one target down. Now that she has one target down, she's fine. The second target's down and she's good to go. So she got pretty low there, which can happen. But as long as she doesn't, miss a resistance on a debuff, or if she doesn't get crit too many times in a row, she's going to make it through the waves. Now, again, that heal reduction debuff out there reduces the amount of damage she takes from the dragon. You're going to notice that the dragon fight is actually easier than the waves. She will just cruise through this dragon, no problem whatsoever. Took her about a minute 40, a minute 45 to get to the dragon. And she's probably going to kill him in, I don't know, maybe a minute, maybe less. Again, all those poisons doing work, the decreased attack, the decreased defense. She just brings a lot of great debuffs. She will get stunned. Oh, she resisted the stun there, but she'll usually get stunned because she doesn't have enough damage to burn through the purple bar. But the regen is more than enough to keep her alive. So what was that? Maybe 45 seconds on the boss, maybe 50 seconds. And there it is. We get all of that extra XP onto our food champions. And you can see the run actually wasn't slow at all. It was 2 minutes and 26 seconds. My best is 1:25. You could probably push that a little bit. But a 2.5 minute run with a solo champion who's getting a lot of XP in terms of food when you're running a dragon tournament, or when you're doing CVC, or whether you're just farming gear or what have you. This is a great way to stretch those resources and get a lot more value from your champions. As you can see here, 4 million damage from Venomage in 2.5 minutes. So excellent champion, really good for soloing this particular dungeon. Like I said, she can also solo the Ice Golem dungeon, but I don't quite have the stat threshold yet to do that. I've been slow in developing my solo champions, and I don't want you to make the same mistake. You should be probably going after your first solo champion as early in the game as it's feasible in terms of your gear. So if you can do it 5 months in, 6 months in, 7 months into the game, go ahead and do it. And I do think Strategos Islan is going to be a champion that's going to be really, really easy to build as a soloer. So consider that. You might not need the stat thresholds that you need for a Venomage. He's going to have a higher defense. He's probably going to have a higher HP pool, and he's got his own built-in regeneration set. So I think everybody's going to be able to build him in the first few months of an account into a viable solo champion. Obviously, you have to be able to complete the fusion, and that might be tricky if you're in an early game account. But if you're 6 or 7 months in and you're thinking about going after your first fusion, I would say don't skip this guy. Okay, so that is it for me. Just a quick shout out to everybody who has supported the channel from the beginning. We've hit our 1,000 subscriber mark, and I just want to say thank you. It's so exciting. It's fantastic. And we're going to keep going. So if you'd like to get in on the action, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, join our Discord community, come say hello, come hang out. it's been really fun growing this community together. As a reminder, I put a shorts video out yesterday. Not everybody's seen that, but I'm going to be doing a Q&A video in the next couple of days. So if you have a question for me, something that you want to know, go ahead and put it in the comments of this video, or go watch the shorts video and put it in a comment over there. And then once I've collected a bunch of questions, I'll go ahead and make a long form video answering all your questions. This is a way to say thank you to all of you out there. Okay, that is it for me. I have been Colred. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in another video very soon.